We'd love to know what you think about this. 657-464-7609. Of course, you can email a voice memo from your smartphone to idoubt@dollemore.com. Let's talk about police behaving badly.
I think it's a theme that we talk about.
Yeah. We need to have a segment.
Well,
for dick cops or something.
Okay.
Not people who police dicks, but police who are dicks.
Interesting. So, Coffee City, Texas. Never heard of it.
Never heard of it.
It's a town of about 250 people.
That's why we've never heard of it.
But I want you to guess how many police officers are employed in Coffee City, Texas, where there are 250 people.
I mean, what a normal police department would have?
Correct.
2 dudes? I mean, that seems... I've lived in towns, not that small, but I've lived in towns like New Meadows, Idaho, that has fewer than 1,000 people, and I don't even think it has a police department. So...
50 police officers are working in a town of 250 people.
That is, what is that, an eighth? A quarter of the...
It's not good. And I want to give a shout out to reporter Jeremy Rogalski, I think is how you pronounce the name. And this is local reporting. This is why we so desperately need local reporting.
Yes.
I know people are like, well, who cares about Coffee City, Texas? No one cares about Coffee City, Texas. It's such a small town,
right.
Whatever. But again, this is kind of emblematic of what happens when police are allowed to operate in a way where they have no supervision or accountability. And this reporter comes into town and is like, something's not right here, especially when he starts looking at these 50 police officers. Many of them had been fired for misconduct elsewhere. I think at least a dozen of them had actually been convicted of crimes.
Wow.
And so he sat down with the chief, and the chief has problems too. But let's just get to the report.
Coffee City, Texas, a dot on the map with barely 250 residents, has a police force of 50 officers, 5 times the number of cops than any other Texas town its size. And that's not the only thing unusual or odd. Turns out there are a half dozen full-time Coffee City police officers who don't even work in Coffee City, Texas. Instead, they work from home, more than 3 hours and nearly 200 miles away in Houston.
It's hard to believe that is happening.
Greg Freeman is a Sam Houston State criminal justice professor.
I've never seen anything like that. There are 100 questions that come to my mind.
Who are these officers? This internal email shows they're part of a warrant division. It reads, there is no need to go to Coffee City because you will be spending 95% of your time on the phone, calling people who have outstanding warrants and collecting failure to appear fines. And because it's a full-time position, there's an added perk.
It gives them the ability to go work an extra job.
Coffee City Chief John J. Portillo concedes they're on the books as full-time because state law only allows full-time cops to work extra security jobs. At this Houston apartment complex, some Coffee City warrant officers do just that and make more than $50 an hour.
They work 2-3 days a week, 4 days a week.
But is it all above board? The warrant division is a performance-based division, and officers' pay is based on the failure to appears they collect.
They're basically bounty hunters in a way.
Freeman says that amounts to a commission for collecting fines.
It doesn't make any sense. From an ethical perspective, it just screams questions about the legitimacy of what they're doing.
That's because state law requires full-time peace officers to get paid at least at the federal minimum wage. But again, at the Coffee City Warrant Division,
the court gives them $150 for each warrant that they clear.
So they don't earn a salary apart from that $150?
No, sir. No, sir.
A head?
Correct. Correct.
Okay. Is that legal?
Oh, I believe so.
2 days after our interview, Coffee City PD changed course, sending out this email to warrant detectives that said, due to unforeseen difficulties, the program has been suspended until such time as I can make sure that we are in compliance with labor laws. So whose job is it to police the police? The Department of Public Safety enforces any extra job violations. The Texas Commission on Law Enforcement, or TCOL, has the power to suspend or revoke a peace officer's license. That agency confirms to us it does have an open investigation into the Coffee City Police Department, guys.
That interview raising a lot of eyebrows, Jeremy. Thank you.
Sure.
And this isn't the only issue. I mean, this was like an almost 12-minute investigative report. And the chief that you heard being interviewed there has quadrupled the size of the police department since he took over in April 2021. But he also has a problematic background in that he had a 2004 DWI charge in Florida that he didn't disclose when he applied for his job. And it's because there was an active warrant out for his arrest. And he was asked about this during the interview with this reporter.
Wow.
And he had various responses that it was like more than 10 years old or whatever.
But an active warrant.
Yeah. And so after the sit down with the reporter the next day, he had, I believe, hired an attorney and responded to that warrant, to that charge. So this entire police department is a complete mess. There's corruption all over the place and it completely stinks.
Listen, it should tell you something that as soon as the press starts poking around, all of a sudden that division of their police department is shut down. His warrant, his active warrant situation is solved all of a sudden. It's back to blue even when they're flouting the law, acting in violation of the law. Is this legal to do? I think so.
It's not a promising response.
Not a promising response at all.
Not something you want to hear from a police chief.
Just remarkable in that in our country, cops are allowed to get away, I mean, with murder. I say that literally and figuratively, but just with no scrutiny whatsoever, are allowed to just do as they please. 50 people working for a tiny town's police department is ludicrous. This guy should be out of a job yesterday.
Yeah. So again, shout out to KHOU's Jeremy Rogowski for that report about Coffee City, Texas.